What's up, everyone? My name is Matthew Dale. I'm here to help you play better, sound great, and understand more. Recently, a church that I played a lot for in the last couple of years has decided to have their own dedicated electric guitar rig, and they went ahead with a fantastic choice. They went with the FM9 to accomplish this. Now, not only do they want the FM9 to take care of all the electric guitar tones for worship, but they would also like the FM9 to take care of the acoustic guitar tones as well as the bass tones. So in this video, we are going to try to make a preset on the FM9 with 3 dedicated instrument chains. Let's see if we can do it. So to start building out this preset, I've gone ahead and pulled up one of the presets that I use a lot in worship playing. This is based around a matchless D30, and it's great on my Strandberg here. This is the neck and middle positions. It stays nice and clean and jangly. And then I've got a nice crunch and edge of breakup sort of tone if I go to the bridge pickup. And scene 2, I'm using scene controllers. If we watch what's going on in the amp block, I'm using scene controllers to give you more drive. And then I've also got, just in my effects layout here, I can add a drive to this, the Tone of Kings. And then I've got an individual level boost on here for lead playing. Or I can also do the same thing with like my clean tone. So I can go back to the lower gain stuff. To bring out some clean lead sort of things. I've got the ever so popular rhythmic delay in here. And of course, a nice touch of reverb and ambient delay. And then I also like a little bit of tremolo on some stuff as well. And that's accomplished by a harmonic tremolo, which I love the sound of. Now, this is just a general overview of this preset. This video isn't really about this preset, but I want to keep this preset intact for all the electric guitar tones. But I want to move some things around and make a little more room on the grid for myself. So real quick, I am going to, let me just disengage that. I'm going to move all these guys around, and we can accomplish a lot of our moving around with these little tabs. I'm going to click this little square, bring up that row, bring up this row, and bring up this row, which just has the reverb block in it. Let's make all of our connections again. And now I've moved this entire chain. Let me connect all these guys back up. I moved this entire chain, and now I just have it relocated on the grid here. Now first, let's talk about routing. So I am going to have the acoustic guitar coming into input 2. And then I'm going to have the bass guitar coming into input 3. And what I'm going to do right now to utilize all of the balanced outputs on the back of the FM9, I'm actually going to have both of these signal chains be mono and going out of output 2. So output 3 is an unbalanced unity gain output. We could run the bass there and then go to a DI and do all that stuff, but for right now, I'm just going to use output 2, left and right, as an individual balanced mono out for each of our instruments. So again, I'm just going to quickly route this over here. We're going to route input 3 to this, and then go up there. And there's some fancy stuff that we're going to be doing in output 2 here in a second. Real quick, let me go into our setup menu, and let's go to audio and just double check that everything that I have on the input side is correct. So obviously input 1 is analog, input 2 and 3 are also analog, but I'm not doing any stereo on the front end of this. I'm just running my acoustic guitar here, so I'm going to choose left only as opposed to stereo or some. And I'm going to do the same thing on input 3. Now, here's how we accomplish the 2 mono signals. If I go into output 2, we can see down here we have row pans. So I can pan input 2. This is row 1, 2, 3, 4. I can pan row 4 all the way to the left, and I can pan, here's row 5, all the way to the right. So now, everything going out of our output is going to be separated on those exact channels. And we will see how that is reflected here in a second. Let me grab my acoustic guitar now. So now that I have my acoustic guitar plugged in, this is utilizing the onboard, I won't say electronics really, but there's onboard pickups. These are K&K passive pickups. I'm coming out of the jack, going straight in, input 2 on the left side, and we can see when I play, just that left channel's lighting up, and then when I go to my mixer, which is over here, we can see just this acoustic guitar channel lighting up. Now, the whole point of this individual chain for the acoustic guitar is going to be so that the Fractal does all the acoustic guitar processing. So it's not a bad tone, but it's not a very refined tone. It's very pickup centric. And if we want our acoustic guitars with piezo pickups to sound a little bit more like a mic'd up acoustic, we can actually accomplish this with acoustic guitar IRs. Now, in this preset, I'm actually going to utilize an acoustic guitar IR that I made with this guitar from my course Fractal Fundamentals. And I actually accomplished this by utilizing the tone match feature in the Axe FX3. So I tone matched the pickups of this guitar to this guitar mic'd up with this microphone, and the results are actually really good. So if you want to learn more about how to get the most out of your Fractal equipment, then you should definitely check out my brand new course, Fractal Fundamentals. Of course, if you want just a free gift from me just for watching this video, you should also check out my blocks library at matthewdale.com/blocks. So I'm going to pull in a cab here, and this is how I'm going to access this IR. Let's go into the picker, and this is going to be in my user bank. And Bedell ES Road, that is this acoustic guitar IR. And now, let me just bypass this real quick. So here's just a couple of simple chords. And if I engage it, it's pretty quiet though. So I could boost this level up in here. And this might actually do a lot of the work for me. And that is, if we bypass it now, you can kind of hear all those muddy mid-range frequencies. And now this sounds a lot more like a mic'd up acoustic. But I not only like to do that with acoustic guitars, but let's also apply some, typical channel processing. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm actually going to borrow this compressor from this chain, so I might have to go up and make a couple of adjustments here. But we're going to plop this compressor down. And let me just utilize, again, my block library. Here's acoustic post amp. In this case, it's going to be post IR. But this just gives me a little bit of light compression that I might do from a soundboard on an acoustic channel. That way, my finger-picking type of stuff in my strumming is a little more even, and it just sort of livens everything up. Let's go ahead and add, of course, the next big important thing, parametric EQ. And I'm going to do this real quick. I'm going to go by, I'm going to do this real quick. I'm going to add in our looper block. I'm just going to loop some chords, and then let's go ahead and try to EQ this to its best sounding it can be. So let's go ahead and pull in the looper. It's in here somewhere. I always lose this looper for whatever particular reason. It's just alphabetical order. You'd think I'd get to know it. I'm going to do the recording threshold on here, so I'm just going to raise this up a little bit, and that way when I start playing, it will record. So now we have that. I'm going to go through and EQ this. Here's bypassed. And there's EQ'd. All right, let's put that on pause. Now, let me just go over real quick what I did. So one of the really handy features of the Fractal Parametric EQ, and I talk about this in another video, is the solos on each of the 5 bands of our EQ. Now, I generally know where I like to block on a high-pass filter and a low-pass filter. I'm just around like 100 here with a fairly aggressive cut. That way, with the more aggressive cut, you don't have to really crank up that high pass to get all of the excess low end out of it. I'm just going to be a little bit more aggressive with it further back or further down on the frequencies. So I find that around 100 hertz usually works pretty well. And then I'm just cutting some of the excess highs that I really don't need or want, especially amplified really live, amplified on a really loud live system, I guess I should say. So I'm finding that, maybe around 8.8K would work pretty well with that. That is really going to depend on hearing it through a loud system as well in a room. This is where I did most of the work, though. So I'm just soloing each individual band just to see what I'm getting. And already you can hear a lot of the low end and excess mid-range frequencies that I don't really need for this application, just getting out of there. So if I just play this again, you can hear all of that low end buildup. And if I bypass it, it's just much more even, and actually it sounds a lot more like a microphone is capturing the guitar, which is good. Sometimes that low end, when we're just like by ourselves and we're only listening to the guitar, sometimes that low end sounds nice, but then what happens typically is we get in a situation where there's more people in a band. There's drums, there's bass, there's electric guitars, there's singers, yada yada, and things just get muddy fast. So I like to really, really pay attention to those low mids. And then no exact science here. I'm just sort of sweeping through these frequencies and saying, okay, I don't really like the way that sounds. Let me pull that down a little bit. I don't really like the way that sounds. Let's pull that down a little bit. The only other thing I really want to do in this, now we do need to keep in mind, we're at about 84%, but I do want to add a reverb to this. So we're going to do another couple of tricks here to lower this CPU, but let's add our reverb first because surprisingly, this isn't going to make a big jump. It does make a 2% jump, but I'm going to do this here right off the bat. I know that I'm probably going to want the South Church. Okay, let me mute this out just for a second because I can hear my vocals being picked up by the inside the guitar. Let's go ahead and move this mix up and let's bring this down. I am going to move this to economy. Let's move this one. That one already is at economy. And let's also go ahead and take these down from ultra res to standard res. And now we have more room to play, which is good. I'm also going to eliminate this looper, and I believe that's also going to take a lot of it out. And yeah, so now we're down on 72%. And let's hear what we have now on our acoustic chain. And there's our nice South Church. I'm just going to EQ this a little bit more. I want less low end. Let's be a little more aggressive on the low end too. Yeah, that sounds good. And you'll notice here, I've got some right side information. I should be a little more clear. Let me do this. Let me just bring in these guys back to row 4. And now, because I have row 4 pan, I could pan row 3 and row 4, but I don't really need to. Unless I'm getting really heavy on the CPU and I need to eliminate all shunts, we might do that, but we'll see. I'm also getting pretty close to the red line here. I might just drop this back a little bit. I think is sounding pretty good. Let's go ahead and move over to bass next. All right, so this is hopefully the first time and the last time that I'm playing bass on this channel, but let's go ahead and see what I can get out of it. So once again, I'm plugged into input 3 on the left side only. This is going to output 2. Now we should just see the right side of this move when I play. And we do, which is good, and that should also be reflected over here on my mixer. Now, this already isn't a bad bass tone. Bass is going to be a little bit more of a pure tone, especially in a worship context. So there's going to be very little that I'm actually going to add here, but I do want some sort of compressor on the bass. I do want a little bit of an amp tone, and we might also do some EQ to this as well. So let's get started with the amp first. Now, let's go ahead and watch our CPU here, because we are really not adding a whole lot of CPU, like not even 1%. So FM9 is actually really capable of utilizing both of the amp blocks, which is great. Unfortunately, I'm out of cab blocks, but I also don't really need a cabinet in this scenario. So let me do this. Let me go over to one of our SV models. And SV Bass 1, let's give this the old college try. And probably what I'm going to do here is bring this up. Let's just cut the mids a little bit, turn up the bass, turn up the treble, do a little bit of a smiley. And maybe the gain. Yeah, I think that's working. Okay. As I run through Autumn Leaves, I like the way that amp sounds. Let's go ahead and add the compressor. The compressor is thirsty. Now we're right around that 80 mark, right around there. Let's go ahead and do a little bit of feedback compressor, and let's just jack the ratio up a little bit. I really don't want this auto attack and release. I think I want to have a little bit of a slower attack time here, and yeah. And let's just pull back on the ratio a little bit. I really like the way that sounds. I think all we really need to do after this is just EQ it. And let's go ahead and just, on bass, although you do want all of those lovely low-end frequencies, excessive low-end can really be, much like it is on guitar, excessive low-end can really make things kind of muddy. And I find that, let's go pretty aggressive, right around like 30 or 40 on bass. Can kind of clean it up. Yeah, and let's go ahead and just do a little bit of blocking on the high end. I don't want to eliminate all of those nice like snaps and pops, but again, we're just cleaning things up. And let's try like 4K. Yeah, I think that sounds good. And I would probably start right here and hear how this sounds in the system before I do any more surgical cuts. I don't want this video to be super long, but what we did demonstrate in this video is that the FM9 is capable of processing 3 independent instrument chains. But what about that compressor that you moved around from our guitar chain? What would you do about that, you might be asking? Well, I'm going to go into the amp block, and I am going to go to our output, our dynamics page, I guess I should say, and I'm just going to increase this gain enhancer that I already have on here, and this should take care of it. I might need to level this out a little bit. Let's see where things are. Yeah, so let me bring this level up a little bit. Bring this down. Let's hit it with the drive. Tone of Kings. And that works perfectly reasonably well. I'm going to put up a little sample track on the end here, just showcasing what all these would sound like in the mix. My name is Matthew Dale. I'm here to help you play better, sound great, and understand more. Feel free to make fun of my bass playing in the comments below, and I'll see you all in the next video.